Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at Anvil's Terrapin, a ship which is clearly very popular in and around the verse. Aesthetically it's very pleasing, it radiates that military persona, it has some excellent features, an advanced scanning suite, it has some complicated armour, it's very heavily armoured for a ship of its size, it's able to fulfil multiple roles, it has capabilities in nearly all of them. The Terrapin does have some interesting lore. Of course, we will dive into some of that for this video as well. So overall, very good ship, has huge potential, just needs to be brought up to speed. I'm hoping by 4.0 that pathfinders in general will have a much higher impact on our day-to-day exploration duties, patrols, whatever you're up to in and around the verse. I think Pyro will be the cornerstone to see what functionality we can get from pathfinders. Not just the Terrapin, Origin 315p for example, and ships of that nature. It will be nice to see them utilize the features that they come equipped with. In order to understand this ship a little bit better, I think it's pertinent that we take a little trip down memory lane and begin to explore the lore of the Anvil Terrapin. The initial deliveries of production model U4A-3 block Terrapin class ships began on September the 19th, 2796, with the first units forming the core of the newly established 198th Utility and Support Wing. Their motto, quote, "We've got you covered," end quote, in a formal handover at MacArthur. As part of the United Empireverse intended phase of military reorganization, elements of the 198th Wing were detached to active fleets as they became available, ensuring that the newly minted Terrapin saw actions quickly. Indeed, the design's first blooding occurred only 2 months after its introduction, when a single Terrapin downed a mercenary fighter as a part of Combined Forces Narcotics Interdiction Operation off Castra. The Terrapin very easily settled into its fleet operations role, proving itself an effective support craft, armoured personnel carrier, and when called, fighting platform. Military planners were extremely pleased with the ease of adoption and frequently cited the Terrapin as proof of the success behind the new model Navy initiative of the immediate post-Mesa era. The original naval order for Terrapins was quickly followed by a second, similarly sized request from the UEE Marines. Although the Terrapin lacks the heavy guns used by dedicated dropships, its protective armour and enhanced scanning capabilities mean that this is an ideal armoured personnel carrier. Terrapin APCs quickly became a frequent sight on convoy duty and smaller scale interdiction missions. It was a UEEM Terrapin which located and then boarded the liner Astoria during the 2820 hijacking disaster. The boarding Terrapin itself was destroyed during the ensuing explosion, but its crew survived. Along with the crew and passengers, they helped lead to safety. Marines are said to prefer travel aboard the smaller Terrapins when possible. Their more advanced systems offering a far smoother, if more cramped, ride than traditional troop ships. Terrapins have also become popular for safe landing operations. Generally, any landing where it will face no more than small arms fire. A rumour persists that the UEEM operates an advanced technology improved stealth Terrapin for covert boarding operations. There has been no proper sighting of this spacecraft, and its existence has been roundly denied by both Anvil and the military. Reconnaissance and scouting units began transitioning to the Terrapin 5 years after its introduction as an armoured utility ship, though this adoption was rockier than the initial launch. Recon pilots, used to incredibly fast light spacecraft that rely on speed over armour to escape trouble, were turned off by the Terrapin's opposite nature. This changed in a single incident. The ship was said to have paid for itself in 2814 when a reconnaissance ship flown by Commander Bruce Dunbar successfully tracked a Vandal raiding party across 4 systems without being identified. The tactical information gathered from the mission helped form important elements of the modern strategic understanding of the Vandal. The ensuing interdiction and destruction of the raiding party by elements of the 9th Fleet was also a major public relations victory for the UEE. In the 3 years following the incident, every single frontline reconnaissance unit received at least 1 Terrapin and crew assignment. The largest downside to the early Terrapin was the difficulty of power management, which required that a pilot become particularly familiar with the design in order to use it most effectively. With multiple flight configurations operations, some of which significantly alter the designs on orbit geometry, the difficulty in mastering the Terrapin became apparent. Later models would ease this, adapting from the tricks developed by the early pilots for managing such an unusual set of abilities. Anvil Aerospace began rolling out the modified U4A-3 Block 2 version in July 2845, with battlefield upgrade kits converting extant Block 1 models to parity over the course of the following 24 months. The U4A-3 Block 2 transition was the result of massive review of pilot experiences from the previous half-century. Thousands of current and former Terrapin drivers were interviewed, and countless hours of combat and flight footage were reviewed as part of the improvement process. The biggest takeaway from the process was that the ship's durability would make it ideal for exploratory roles it had not yet filled. As a result, Block 1 models dropped a largely unused remote chin turret and were given extended batteries, improved shielding, and a sensor suite capable of gathering and storing more data than would ordinarily be required for a fire support spacecraft. Though the changes were not the result of a former request for proposal, the Navy quickly saw the value and began purchasing Terrapins specifically for exploratory service assignments. Although the Terrapin's active service includes lengthy periods of peacetime, it's a design that is considered in demand under any circumstances. Admiral Voss Kant famously claimed that the Terrapin's multi-role capabilities meant that there was no single spacecraft he would rather have ready in 5 position. Indeed, Terrapin pilots quickly adapted to keeping track of more than a kill score. Auxiliary and support squadrons typically treat with equal importance the number of missions flown, the number of rescues performed, or the number of boarding operations conducted. Exploratory squadrons compete in terms of raw data uploaded. In all these areas, the Terrapin has become a record setter. A Terrapin currently holds the record for live rescues, pickup of humans who have been exposed to pure vacuum. Terrapin were among the first spacecraft dispatched as part of the Synth World project. The massive construction project was such a drain on Navy resources that by the early 30th century, it was estimated that 3 in 5 Terrapin had been assigned to the effort at some point in their service. In addition to APC and S&R duties, multiple attempts were made to modify them for small-scale ore transport and mineral analysis. Construction-orientated Terrapins received a distinct yellow and black paint scheme during this era, which is still commonly associated with the effort. The modern U4A-3 Block 3 model premiered in 2899, featuring among other things upgrades to weapon hardpoints and a number of control surfaces. The Block 3 model also formalizes a long-time trick used by Terrapin pilots, the ability to release energy by toggling flight modes. While no battlefield upgrade option was created, Block 3 space streams have now replaced the Block 2 model. Recent years have seen the Terrapin fill out its combat history as battles with the Vandal have become larger and more commonplace. In a noteworthy 2944 engagement, a flight of 6 Scythe fighters happened into a quartet of Terrapins operating with systems low in stealth mode as part of a training observation. With their emissions low, the Terrapin crew spent a terrifying 8 minutes avoiding detection before ultimately being in a position to turn the table and get the jump on the Vandal. The UEEN flight suffered damage but no lost spacecraft, while 5 of the 6 Scythes were destroyed. Gun camera footage was not able to determine the fate of the 6th, but it is considered to be a probable kill. It was also around the turn of the century that civilians began more widespread operation of Terrapins. The Navy surplused thousands of Block 2s as part of their transition and began rotating out Block 3s on a 15-year cycle. The civilian refurbishment program, operated by Anvil out of a dedicated decommissioning facility at Nova Kiev, makes veteran Terrapins available to corporations and individual users. ArcGen was the first large corporation to adopt Terrapins en masse, adapting the ship's reconnaissance capabilities for their traditional survey work. Noteworthy civilian operators today include Meridian Transport, where Terrapins are used for higher security planetary hops, and GRUT, where they have become instrumental in search and rescue missions. Individual Terrapin owners have also become extremely common in recent years, with thousands of the ships on official registry. Owner-operators consider them to be a sound investment, even used a solid spacecraft capable of many essential common roles while still being rough and tumble enough to adapt to a constantly changing galaxy. So guys, that was the lore behind the Anvil Terrapin. Quite a formidable and potent little ship, heavily armoured. It took down 5 Scythes, probably 6 from the Vandal. That in itself is quite impressive. The UEE Navy are very fond of this. Various companies have tried to modify it. It's a great little ship. Internally, it's a little bit bare bones, and as you can see here, there is that predominant scanning suite seat that you will be using to maybe sneak behind enemy lines, gather intel, or find points of interest and sell it to relevant information dealers. So it has a lot of potential in the future. I can also see this being used by organisations as a pretty respectable command and control vehicle. I think that would make an excellent role for this ship. If there's an ongoing battle and you need, the commander needs to zip around the battlefield to see what's going on, then why not take the Terrapin, where he can command his forces in a heavily armored little ship, which will zip around, ducking in and out of fire, and has the ability to run away should it need to. It's all fairly basic in here. I do think in the future this ship really will come into its own once we get the capabilities that this ship is obviously been built to provide in and around the verse. So it is a fantastic ship and I am very fond of it. Let's now take a look at the weapons and components that this ship comes with. Okay, so currently the Terrapin is equipped with 2 badges on a chin turret located at the front of the vessel. Originally, I believe these were actually distortion repeaters. The idea is that this isn't really a combat ship. It's a deep behind enemy lines, reconnaissance and information intel gathering vessel, which with its space on board can be used for multiple roles, but it has quite some impressive components. It has 2 shields, size 2, and we get a power plant, which is the Daybreak. I will probably look into this ship a bit more when I purchase one and see what components fit this a bit better. I haven't really tested it enough to advise on what I would swap. You can see here it does have 3 coolers as well, and that's due to the hull. The armor's so thick on this little ship, it requires a substantial amount of cooling, and in fact there is a setting on the ship that you can adjust, and flaps and things will operate in order to relieve some of the heat from the ship, and they called it coming up for air. That's to just dispel all of the heat that's been building up due to that heavy armor. It comes with an EOS QT drive. I haven't tested it enough to know how good that is, but I would want to probably use that a bit more before I decided to change it. I more than likely will if it goes into combat or recce roles in and around Pyro, which is how I intend to use it with the Odyssey. Fairly impressive little ship the Terrapin is. So what we'll do now is our walk around and we'll talk about how cool this thing looks, because it does look excellent in my opinion. So let's begin our walk around, and as you see at the front we have the chin turret with the 2 size 2 gimbaled weapons there. We have 4 landing gear. We have numerous engines with VTOL capability, which is going to be excellent for keeping you stable in atmosphere. This is obviously not the fastest of ships, and in the future this will have utility hardpoints, so the ability to strap tractor beams to it and what other things that you might need in and around the verse. This ship will be able to attach said utility items, which is really cool. Up there you can see like one of the venting flaps, I keep calling them. I don't know if that's the correct term. They're sort of winglets that open up from the hull. That's to dispel all of the heat because it is heavily armoured. Now you're not going to go toe to toe with medium or light fighters. That's not the point. The point is that you're being sneaky somewhere or you're doing reconnaissance and you have enough armour there, should you get discovered, to take quite a beating before you make your escape with that important information and intel that you've gathered that maybe you want to sell, or maybe you're spying on another colony, for example, things of that nature. 2 size 2 shields as well, which is really impressive. So for a ship of this size it is very tanky enough that the Marines wanted to use it as an APC, so that in itself will tell you just how effective this ship can be. Round the back, it just looks incredible, this ship. It's so well detailed. The engines look great. There's not a single thing I would change on this ship. It really does look sci-fi and feel right at home in the verse. I think it's one of the best looking ships in the game. It's just something about it that appeals to me. And I cannot wait to get this up and running in and around Pyro. I think this ship really will come into its own. It has some advantages over its competitors like the Origin 315P, you know, the data gathering, the armor. It's not as fast or mobile. There's pros and cons to each, but I just think this is on a whole new level. It really is a great ship, and I just hope that CIG are able to implement its full potential, especially with that scanning suite being its prime role in the verse at the moment. I also think that in my mind this could be used as a space age Huey helicopter. The ability to drop off troops into an infantry battle, take a little bit of a beating and leave will be valuable, I think. If people don't want to run something as big as a Valkyrie or the Prowler, then why not? The Terrapin is more than capable. So we'll make our way in, and you're greeted by quite a lot of empty space and just the one seat. Obviously you could have a two-man crew, but you could easily operate this solo. But detailing wise, it's really good in here. The radar's locked obviously because we haven't got access to those components. We do get a bed, so you can log out. We have the Shoilet, which is, you know, going to be pivotal. You're not sure how long you could be out on operations, so it's good to have this. Good to know that hygiene is going to be a key factor. Very clean looking, very basic bed. Small microwave here, I believe, and some more stowage above it. It's nicely modelled in this ship. I like all the rivets and things that you can see in the walls. We get armour and gun racks, which is very nice. So even for bunker raiding, this becomes a very useful ship. Unfortunately, there's no cargo gridlocks, but you could do package deliveries and things of that nature. And with this scanning thing, suite, I should say, not thing, I wonder if this is going to help detect various salvage wrecks through the verse. That'd certainly be useful. You could team up with a vulture or a redeemer, the reclaimer, and go out seeking scraps. This ship would make that very easy with the scanning dish located on top of the ship itself. So there's numerous roles that this little ship can fill, and many game loops that we can explore using this ship. So at the moment it's the basic stuff that you can see here located on the scanning computer here. Same sort of information that you will find in the cockpit, so nothing unusual or unique yet. We will see how these scanning dishes work. I'm interested to see how the Mercury Star Runner will implement that's scanning potential as well. It's all very interesting, but a lot of potential. Let's move on towards the front of the vessel then. Again, pretty bare bones in this sort of mid-section of the ship. We have some component housing here and another one here, and I don't see any more. What's this one here? Shield generators. Okay, they're always much bigger than you think. Always catches me off guard. So we've got the two shield gens there. CPU, management CPU. I wonder if that's where the blades would be stored if you would need them. I don't think you would, to be honest. And then of course we have the cockpit bridge area. So we'll hop in this seat. And it's a very slow seat in the Terrapin compared to some of the other vessels in the verse. But this is a very nice sort of wrapped around cockpit. You're not going to use these outer MFDs too much, but as you can see, there's a lot of information for you, the pilot, to digest here. And I imagine it's all to do with the intel gathering and things of that nature. Maybe you can manipulate the scanner from the cockpit seat, I would hope so, but just less effective. But these lights up here, I don't like them. When you're out in space, the last thing you want are lights shining in your eyes. So if this does go through its gold standard at some point, they need to go, because it is just annoying in the pitch black of space having those lights shining in your face. Normally, I love the lights, but it's the only fault in the cockpit that I could find. So you would operate the ship normally with the normal MFDs, the radar in the middle, which is a really cool radar, I have to add. Very good ship. I am a fan of this, and I will be picking one up. All the buttons are easy to read, nothing untoward. It's a great little ship. Struts aren't too intrusive. But there we go. That was my video, guys, on the small but wicked Anvil Terrapin. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, you know what buttons to press, and I of course will have more Star Citizen content en route to your location very, very soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. Cheers.